Paul Wolf, I'm drinking your fucking vodka right now.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 78 of 1 Million of the Serial Chillers podcast from the Super Network studio. I am here with Hella Greg in his bunker across the internet. Tell me, how goes it, Hella Greg? Good.
I'm doing well, thank you.
Very good.
How are you?
You know, after watching you work your sweet magic with that branding, I'm very well as well. Thank you for asking.
You gotta savor it.
Yes, of course. Find us how you guys can. Please, Facebook is Serial Chillers Podcast. Just find us on all the social medias. It's at Serial Chillers Podcast. The email is serialchillerspodcast@gmail.com. Call or text the show, 1-805-666-2513. You've got merch at serialchillerspodcast.threadless.com. Anything else, Greg?
No, you pretty much covered it.
Cool. Thank you. So, Jesus Christ, this is going very well. Yeah. So we are welcoming back two guests who were here for the Joel Rifkin episode. They inspired the only two pieces of mail I think we've ever received. Some turtle pictures. You guys were very pleased to see that some turtles had arrived and very pleased with the content of said turtle picture. So welcome back, Lindsey and Bree.
Hi.
Eat.
We love those pictures, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Whoever sent
Amazing
them
artwork.
was amazing.
Yes, I believe Lily's "Turtles suck dick, you fuckface loser."
Oh my God,
just a
yeah.
very standout quote for me.
Thank you, Lily.
It really, really spoke to the heart, if that makes sense, you know? It really touched the soul. So, yeah.
So we're all feeling good to start off then tonight. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Turtle photos have won the night. Well, you guys know how the show works. Let me explain it for anybody that doesn't. Each week, I sit down with old friends, new friends, good friends, and bad friends to tell them the story of an infamous serial killer or other. Throughout the show, you guys can chime in on my story, and if you have brought a story of your own that is true crime, dark, creepy, unsolved, or otherwise mysterious, please feel free to share it. Lastly, if you have questions about questions, make sure to ask questions, because I cannot answer questions about questions if you never ask questions.
Questions?
Are there any?
No, this time I don't have any.
No.
Then welcome to and let's play the Serial Chillers podcast. So, you might have heard me in the intro twist things up a little.
Yeah, we caught that.
This episode is a little different. There are only so many serial killers, in my professional opinion, that we can cover and do an hour and 20 minutes on and make it interesting. And there's some things that I really want to do that aren't serial killers. So
Please
I
tell
know
me we're gonna do a cult.
we're not going to do a cult. I'm
Damn
sorry.
it.
I am sorry. You're going to fucking hate these people, though, as usual. That is something I can promise you.
That's what I like.
Dope.
There's a lot of stories that I want to do, and although the name of the podcast rhymes with serial killer, I think we're going to start looking into some events and other types of killers. You guys are, let's call it guinea pig event here tonight. You guys are here for two. I brought a side story as well. So I have two separate stories and a third smaller story. I have brought two family annihilators for you. You guys familiar with the term? I believe it's fairly new. They used to just be mass murderers. Now they're family annihilators. You annihilate
Where
your
you
family.
kill a whole family?
Yeah. You're
okay.
like the whole family.
Is it yours specifically?
Or like Charles Manson, you become a family.
So
and
it's
kill.
like it's just like the term serial killer. It's kind of defined differently by different people, but essentially, let's say your dad, you kill kids and wife.
Okay.
You're a family annihilator. You wipe out everybody in your home.
Gotcha. Your home. Okay.
Yeah, you're a family annihilator.
That's so
There was
crazy.
like a Christmas.
Chris Watts recently who
Yes,
killed his wife
I
and
was
kids.
just
Yes.
talking about this today with someone.
So,
How crazy.
family annihilator. I did
That's
not
like
include him because a lot of people, a lot of details are
Is
coming
that
out
the
about that
Arizona
case.
one?
Colorado, I think, but the
Okay,
most
yeah.
recent one.
Yes, yeah.
Yep.
Those
So-
are interesting. Good. That's a good one.
All right.
Yeah.
So I've got two for you today. The first one we're going to start with is Robert William Fisher. So grab some note cards. You guys are going to write down the answers as normal. We have 14 questions here today. All right, y'all ready for this? Question number 1. In what year was Robert Fisher born? Do a birthday, because if you can nail the exact birthday and year, it's a 2,000 points now. So closest gets 250 points. If you guys nail the year, it's for 1,000.
Family Annihilator?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What's the name again?
Robert William Fisher. August 12th, 1951. November 7th, 1948. Bree's going to get 250 points. Nobody got the actual birthday, which was April 13th, 1961.
Ooh.
So 250 points for Bree. A lot of time left, Lindsay. Don't worry, it's not over. 13 questions to go. Don't panic. So Robert Fisher was born in Brooklyn, New York on April 13th of 61 to William Fisher, who was a banker, and Jan Howell, who was a stay-at-home mother. Fisher has 2 sisters, and he attended Saharo High School in Tucson, Arizona. Fisher's parents would divorce in 1976 when he was 15 years old. According to friends and relatives, the divorce was extremely difficult, leaving a long-lasting effect on Robert, who still talked about the split with coworkers at the Mayo Clinic Hospital that he worked at well into his 30s. So I think divorce can hit people really hard. I think it's just like every other serial killer. There's always like something. Maybe there wasn't any direct abuse happening, but this.
My parents are divorced, and I'm not a fucking serial killer.
Yeah, no. And that's what we always say too. Is like people are like, oh, they were schizophrenic, and I'm like, no. And we're like, no, we understand they're schizophrenic. We call them a fuckface because there are millions of people that have schizophrenia who have not serial murdered other people. Yeah, so yes, mental sicknesses aside. Some motherfuckers are just fuck faces, regardless. Yes.
I'm going to watch out for my daughter now, though.
It can be an excuse.
Yeah, well, he was 15 too, though. I think that like he was like learning what love was and like trying to figure it all out. And he was like, he used his parents as the only example he really had. And then they split, and he was like, what is love? So it really fucked him up. His sister, too, from what I understand, because she was pretty prominent in one of the documentaries that I watched about it, obviously not fucked up in the same way. She didn't help him do any family annihilation later on.
My daughter's going to know from day one, love does not exist.
That is just the fucking way it goes. I mean, I love you. I like you. But listen, we can grow to love, okay? You gotta earn that shit. It's not just given.
I'm just kidding.
We're basically
baby,
roommates right now, and then later when you're older, you're gonna owe me so much back rent.
And guilt. Just guilt. I get to guilt you for the rest of your life.
I'm gonna turn 62 and be like, why aren't you taking care of me yet? That's my retirement plan. You better you gotta have something good. I haven't been saving at all. So in the documentary, his sister speaks about the divorce and obviously how it affected them differently. Robert, later in life, he would kind of tell his sister, for him, it was just about marrying the perfect woman. And then no matter what was happening in the relationship, making sure that it was the perfect relationship. Crazy shit.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, it's like Psycho.
Yeah, very similar, in fact. So his sister is very wary and reluctant of the idea of marriage. She was a little more like your pace there. She was like, listen, my parents can't fucking do it. It doesn't exist. I don't really need to fuck with that. Love doesn't exist, bitch. That's how I'm fucking doing it. Go marry your perfect woman. I'm gonna chill. She ended up getting married. I'm sure she's a very nice woman. She seemed like it, at least in the documentary, but it affected them in very different ways. Question number 2. After high school, Robert is going to join the military. What branch? This one's just go for it. 250 points if you get it.
Where does he live?
He is in Tucson, Arizona.
I guess that doesn't make a difference, but
Tucson.
I feel like it does. I feel like the Navy probably doesn't have a bunch of branches in Tucson.
You can leave where you're from to go into the military. All right, Bree says Army. You gave a hint to Lindsay. She felt Navy. She's like, Greg just tried to give me the answer. I had to go with this.
I was already writing it down.
I'm totally joking. But you did get points. 250 points. It was the Navy. He wanted to get out of the desert and into the water. Robert Fisher, a Navy veteran. So he's...
Plus the Navy's the most generic. No offense.
See, and I thought Army was like the most generic.
Shots fired.
And like, I was like thinking, oh, I live in the desert. This is shithole
I just
anyway.
feel like I know so
whatever.
many people
I'm
that have joined the
good.
Navy.
I literally do not know one
Really?
person that has.
I know like 20.
I know more Army people. That's why, hence our answers.
Yeah.
There we go.
And now we've got a tie game at 250 apiece. So, Robert Fisher, he's in the Navy. In 1987, he's going to get married to a woman named Mary Cooper. Question number 3. He has 3 main career paths that he takes. I'm going to give you 4 careers. One of these he did not do. Was he a surgical catheter technician, a respiratory therapist, a police officer, a firefighter? One of those he was not. Which one was he not?
Which one was he not?
Yeah, so he was 3 of these 4. Which one was he not? Was he not a surgical catheter technician, a respiratory therapist, a police officer, or a firefighter?
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing with catheter.
You guys both say that there's just no way that he was a catheter technician. Jesse just made that up off the top of his head. No, he was not a police officer.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So he was in his life. He began as a firefighter. He got a back injury, and he couldn't make it in firefighting anymore. So he saved a lot of money, got his back surgery, and then he went to medical school, and he became a nurse, and he worked as a respiratory therapist, and eventually became a surgical catheter technician. That was the end game for him.
I guess I was just trying to find the one that just was so that
One of
didn't
these things is not like the
with-
other.
And
Right.
I guess police officer, but then I thought police, firefighter. You know what I mean? Like, is it so big of a jump?
That's the fun thing about Serial Chillers podcast is that I made up all the questions, so none of them can possibly be good. All right. So, he was not a police officer. So he was firefighter, respiratory therapist, surgical catheter technician. He was also an avid outdoorsman, a hunter, and a fisherman. A lot of people said that he scared people off from hunting with him because they would hunt, and he's like the dude who would get the
gonna
blood
dictate,
and rub it on his face when they killed a deer, and he did the
fucking
weird shit. Yes, exactly. To where they were like, "Hey, let's not tell Robert this time. We just do it without him." Is that?
We're not here.
We're not in this campsite, Robert. Keep moving. Yeah, so he started doing his outdoor shit alone because his friends were fucking freaked out by his presence. His sister says that she doesn't believe any of the stories that have come out in the media portraying him as this bad guy. She said there's a lot of weird pictures of him hunting with shit on his face. It's not blood, but people use it to personify him as some fucking evil creature, and she's like, it's camouflage paint. So there's there's different sides of the story. Most of them, the good ones, come from his family. So Fisher was described later as a cruel and distant control freak of a father who was awkward with his children, but tried to hold on to an image as a devoted family man. So he's going back to that
He wants to
I'll
fake
get
it
one,
so you make it.
and then it'll be perfect. I'll figure out how to make that the case. So he was pretty apprehensive even to connect with his own in-laws. His mother-in-law, Jenny, would say of him, quote, "Robert didn't socialize often with family because of fear of getting too close with people and losing them." So I'm not exactly sure what, or how maybe that's what his wife told his mother-in-law. He doesn't like to get close to people and lose them. It's
That's definitely something like your wife tells her parents.
Yeah.
What precisely does that mean, though? You guys might die in who knows, 20 years. I don't want to get too close to you. Well, that's weird for me.
Just he couldn't show up to the barbecue today because he's just not feeling good.
He's afraid when you die, he's going to be really sad. So I don't think you can get too close to any
want
of
to deal
you.
with the stress of that later.
Right.
So.
Robert's own mother would tell investigators later that she had been a yes sir wife who didn't stand up to her husband and just did whatever he said. So that was what Robert saw before the divorce, was that it was woman, make me a sandwich, and she was like, yes sir, and made him a fucking sandwich. And
That
so
generation type of expect,
and Robert expected to keep that rolling. So Robert's mother tried to give advice to Mary and said, like, look, you have to just be firm because it's not how it used to be. Just like you're saying, like that's not how it works these days. Like he needs to help and you need to just be firm with him. So his mom came in and gave advice to her, like, just fucking check his bitch ass sometimes. And I'm not sure that was very good advice. So, yes, she added that she saw similar dynamics early in her son's marriage to Mary and had talked to her daughter-in-law about the concerns. Fisher's mother told her to be firm and stand up for herself. Exactly what I said, but I read it later. So good shit. I'm really good at this.
So, like, at what point, what year is this about?
This is like 96, 97, 98. Okay. Yeah. Fisher was super active in the Scottsdale Baptist Church men's ministry, so he was incredibly involved with the church. Praise Jesus, of course.
Red flag
Yep.
is right there.
What? Unlike Mary, he had begun to withdraw from the church's activities a few months prior to the eventual crimes that are going to be committed. In 1998, the Fishers went to their church's senior pastor for marital counseling. Robert Fisher told co-workers about a one-night affair with a prostitute that he had met in a massage parlor. He went to a massage parlor and was like, "Am I happy ending?" And they were like, "Yeah, fucking $100, I'm leaving." So he made it happen, and then he just, he told his wife, "I failed into temptation." So they went to the pastor and asked him to ask Jesus how to fix their marriage. So that's what I imagine. Jesus was like, "Yo, dude, I'm fucking busy."
And then Jesus fixed it.
Yeah.
And it worked out.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't give a fuck about your marriage.
And then that's the end of the episode. Thanks for listening to Serial Chillers Podcast.
Solved it again. Bang.
Yeah.
It did just dawn on me, though, like, as you're, like, telling this whole story, I'm like, oh, my God, all these people are going to die really soon.
Are you sure?
Well, I mean, you said he's like a family annihilator, so.
So, he was very worried that Mary's going to find out about this incident anyway. So he wanted to get it out to her. Plus, he got this really bad urinary tract infection, and he was almost positive that it was from visiting this.
Can a hand job give you a UTI?
I think it went farther than it. Like he made the arrangements at the massage parlor, and then his wife was out of town, and then
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think he went a little farther than the happy ending. He went with the very happy ending, supersize. So he.
I'm craving McDonald's.
So Fisher would eventually tell a hunting mate that he was renewing his commitment to his faith and his marriage because, quote, he could not live without his family. According to psychologists,
Red flag.
yes,
Right there.
an intense fear of loss is not unusual for an individual traumatized by divorce while an adolescent. So that's something that fits perfectly like we thought it would. He's got this, like, I can't lose my family. Like, what did I do at this fucking massage? Yes.
To keep this family together.
Anything. Yeah. So this is the divorce is like, it's pivotal for everything. Like, it's tough to say in some killers' lives, like if there was one event that created what they would become, but this divorce is pretty.
The most severe thing that happened to me from my parents' divorce is just that I have like terrible commitment issues now.
Okay.
That's it. I have not killed anyone though.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
That's true.
You got plenty of time. You got a long life ahead of you, Lindsay.
I do.
Keep your chin up.
I got a long way to go.
So, he's it's the divorce. Everybody talks about the divorce. Every documentary mentions the divorce. They're called like Robert Fisher's dad got a divorce. The documentary. That's what it felt.
That's what they're trying to play off.
Yes, almost every single one. So in the weeks before his family's death, Mary Fisher told several friends that she was going to divorce her husband, Robert. According to a neighbor, the Fisher family was having a loud argument the night of April 9th, 2001 at 10:30 p.m. Question number 4. The fight took place approximately 10 hours before what event? A, the house blew up in an explosion. B, Gunshots rang out from the home for all the neighbors to hear. C. Mary ran to the neighbors to call 911. Or D. A neighbor saw Robert hit Mary. The house blew up in an explosion. Gunshots rang out from the home for the neighbors to hear. Mary ran to the neighbors to call 911. Or a neighbor saw Robert hit Mary. Okay, Bree says that Mary runs to call 911. Lindsay says explosion. Lindsay's getting 250 more points because, yes, indeed, the Fisher home went up in a very large explosion. Firefighters were immediately alerted due to a natural gas explosion and a fire in the Scottsdale house. Multiple 911 calls were made, and this was not like the sound of some assholes like blowing up some off-season fireworks. This was an explosion that like rattled homes for like a half mile in every direction. People were calling like, I think a bomb just went off. And Scottsdale, from all accounts, apparently, I'm not crazy familiar, but they kept referring to it as the Beverly Hills of
I think it's
Phoenix.
pretty suburban.
Yeah, like it's like the lowest crime rate in all of Arizona. Like people don't die there. It's very they were very
well-to-do.
Yes, they were very, very sure to point that out. Like
I swear I was thinking like
swanky.
awful lot of honkies here from the Family Guy. That's what rang in my head.
So the explosion was said to be heard from miles away as it ripped through the ranch-style house in the 2000 block of North 74th Place at 8:42 a.m. The explosion appeared to be centered in the living room, and the subsequent fire burned the house into rubble. The initial explosion was strong enough to collapse the front brick wall of the home and rattle frames of neighboring houses for a half mile. Rural Metro Fire Department firefighters were on the scene within minutes and kept the 20-foot-high blaze from spreading to neighboring homes. A series of smaller secondary explosions believed to be either rifle ammunition or paint cans going up forced firefighters to keep their distance. Yeah, fucking crazy. One firefighter suffered minor injuries when he hurt his leg when he got too close to the home and part of the wall collapsed onto his leg. So he got like a small burn and some abrasions. He's cute. Once they were able to make it into the home, they were shocked at what they found. Question number 5. What did the firefighters find that clearly shocked them? Was it A, evidence the family may have been abducted? B, an empty home, even though they thought people were there? C, the bodies of everyone in the family? Or D, the bodies of everyone but Robert himself? Just evidence that they may have been abducted, an empty home, the bodies of everyone, or the bodies of everyone but Robert. Okay, Bree says evidence that they had been abducted. Lindsay said the bodies of everyone but Robert himself. Lindsay's getting 250 more points.
I am awful.
Because, yes, in the home on the morning of April 10th, 2001, before accelerants were spread across the home and a gas line was broken loose to fill the kitchen with natural gas and a few candles were lit throughout the house. Before all of that was completed, right, Mary Fisher was shot in the back of the head, and both of her children's throats were slashed from ear to ear hours before their home exploded.
What the fuck, dude?
Brittany was 12 and Zach was 10.
Damn.
It would appear as if their lives were cut quite short by their father while they slept in their own beds. Earlier that night, Robert had taken Brittany to a National Honor Society induction dinner where she was she was like super smart, like very promising young lady. Zach had just completed his hunter safety course with his mom the night before, and he was going to get to be his dad's hunting buddy. So evidence of the homicide had allegedly been, this is like the night before. So,
oh my God.
Evidence of the homicide had allegedly been tried to be concealed by pulling out the gas line from behind the home's furnace. The accumulating gas was later ignited by an ignition source, possibly the pilot light on the water heater or the candles left behind by Fisher. Then the burned bodies of a woman and 2 children were found lying in the bed of the remains of the home. One detective mentions that he knew that these people were dead well before the fire because he said that they were like all resting peacefully in bed. He said this was like, while it was a crazy explosion, it wasn't something that wouldn't have killed them instantly in their beds. They would have got up and maybe burned or died of smoke inhalation out of bed. But their bodies were, it was very, the documentary like showed the bodies with the video, like the police footage of it. And,
Stage.
you couldn't, I mean, police investigators, I'm sure, understood what they were seeing, but it looked like just a lump of charcoal. Like that's what the
Like I
bodies
just
looked. They
will
were
never understand this. Like, just get a divorce. Just leave your kids. Like, there's no reason to
yeah,
fucking
but do you
kill
know what
everyone.
like God and the church might think of you? Like that's seriously what like a lot of this is about. It's like, oh, I
You know
like
what?
went away
Like,
from
I'm sorry.
ministry a little bit, and
God also is like, don't fucking murder people.
Yes.
Like,
I just can't get over how he slit his kid's throat.
Oh my God,
the
dude.
fact that he it's one thing to I mean, not that I don't say that I'm
Right,
maligning with shooting them, but it's so much more like
It makes me, like,
harsh
sick to my
to
stomach.
do it that way. Like there's like a rage behind that almost.
this was a tough week because as a father with 2 daughters,
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is very like, I swear I'm not this. Like I just had to watch this stuff this week, babe.
Yeah.
Like don't trip on this. Okay, I'm not like doing research or anything. So like that's the fine line we're
it's
walking.
Like, it's
How'd he get
very
away?
like sickening. Like, just fucking get a divorce.
Yes.
That's it.
Sage
Just leave.
advice.
Just
Yes.
walk away.
Listen to Lindsey. If you feel like murdering your significant other and or children, just walk away.
Just walk out on your family. Be that piece of shit guy. Like,
That's much less piece of shit than murdering your family.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to say though because these people are so brainwashed. Like thinking about even just like the churches and how hardcore. Like I know, Jehovah's Witness, you cannot leave your spouse or you'll get excommunicated from the church. Like just that alone. Like
Well, I have another Family Annihilator that we're going to do. It's actually going to be next week's episode. So that's how deep into the Family Annihilator pool I dove this week. But it's Christian Longo. This won't matter. We can even leave this in if you want, Greg. Preview, yo. He was Jehovah's Witness, and he had an affair. And I forget the term they used, but they like kicked him out of the. Like he could still go to church, but people weren't allowed to talk to him.
Yeah.
They were like,
his family can't talk to him.
Yes,
Like,
yeah,
everybody
like
in
that's
the
supposed to be
church.
the deal. So,
Yeah.
months later, he murdered his whole family. So like there's
So it's like there is a sense
such
of
a-
like cult brainwashing in there to where they,
There's
I
so
don't
much
think
shame
that's an
for him.
excuse,
That
but
was
it's
the-
just like there's such a psychological aspect to it, and there has to be. I mean,
exactly.
what else?
yeah, no, normal people don't just go
Yeah.
murder their whole family because they're not happy.
He's still
anymore.
a piece of shit. Don't
Hardcore.
get me wrong.
Hardcore. So the victims were obviously later identified as Mary Fisher, who was 38, her children, Brittany Fisher, who is 12, and Bobby Fisher, who is age 10.
Oh,
Investigators have considered that Robert Fisher murdered his family because he left because of his wife's threat with intent to divorce. So she pretty much said like everybody thinks she said finally like this has got to be over. We can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And she tried to get the divorce, and he was like,
I don't think so.
yeah, that's not going to work for me. So he was not actually initially even considered a suspect. They thought that he was in trouble too because of like his background, and there are no red flags as of yet. He's from everybody looking on the outside. It's like very
Perfect.
besides the fact that he doesn't really like go and visit with his in-laws a lot, which like I might be guilty of even myself, right?
Most people are.
Yeah, but so initially they're really worried, especially his in-laws. They were like his father-in-law did like this. He was on the news and he like broke down crying like if you're out there, like please come back. We miss you. We love you. Like we don't know what happened for sure. Please come back. Let's figure this out. Like it wasn't like get back here, you motherfucker. You killed my grandkids
like,
and my
there was still a glimmer of hope.
yeah.
that
For
he
them it was like
not involved.
yeah, exactly. They believed that like maybe he's in trouble too, and they really wanted to be able to speak to him, and so they did. They tried through the media, unsuccessfully so. Robert was he was gone. Despite their marital difficulties, he vowed that his marriage would never dissolve. On April 14th, Robert William Fisher, who has disappeared at the time of the murders, was named as an official and to date only suspect of the case. On this day, the Arizona Department of Public Safety officers were instructed in a statewide bulletin to arrest him if they came across him. He had left with his wife's 4Runner and his dog and stopped at an ATM no more than a half mile from their home and pulled out $280 in cash, like the max they were allowed to pull out or whatever from their account that day. And that's the last sign they have of him. So
$280, that'll get you far, man.
yeah. Well, it's 01, all right? That's like probably like $400 now.
Well, I mean, I guess if you're only paying $12 an hour for a hotel room, yeah.
So on April 20th, the last physical evidence of Fisher's whereabouts surfaced when police found Mary's Toyota 4Runner and his dog, whom he was said to have loved more than his family. Like, a lot of people said that he had a weird connection with his dog. Like, he would choose his dog over his family, which
Dogs
he
are
did
cool.
in the
Well,
end.
I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm guilty.
Yeah.
I'm guilty.
So, question number 6. What was the dog's name? Was it A, Scooby, B, Blue, C, Ranger, or D, Hunter?
Hunter.
Scooby, Blue, Ranger, or Hunter?
For what it's worth, $280 in 2001 is $397.21.
Damn, I was almost right. I said 400 bucks.
$400.
I would have been off the showcase, but yeah, I would have been close. All right, Bree says Hunter. Lindsay says Ranger. His name was Blue. They found his dog Blue. So they find the car, the 4Runner. Let me just mark you guys as zeros here.
zeros,
All right,
thank
Lindsay's
you.
up 750 to 250. Plenty of time, Bree. Don't worry. Don't worry. There's like 8 questions left. So they find the 4Runner. It's parked in what they called pristine condition. Under the 4Runner sat patiently was Robert's dog, Blue. He was just chilling. Like, he wasn't tied up. He just knew, like, you got to stay with the car, and that's what good dogs do. This was in the Tonto National Forest, 100 miles north of Scottsdale. So this is 2 weeks later. They find this car in pristine condition with his dog, like, obviously very healthy and fine, just chilling, waiting by the car. So I think for them, they're like, he's fucking nearby. So they start searching like all these cave systems. They're sending like cable cameras down to look into these caves. Because remember, he's this like well-trained outdoorsman. He's done this. He's like lived out in the woods for a couple weeks on his own many times before. They find nothing. They found this car. And so at this time, they're kind of like wondering if he had an accomplice, did he have a vehicle here that he took out, but there's no sign of another vehicle, entering or exiting. So he just disappeared. This is the last like physical evidence that they've got of him to this point. On July 19th of 2001, an Arizona Superior Court state arrest warrant was issued at Phoenix, charging Fisher with 3 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of arson. So now they're like, it's not a fucking open warrant. It's not this little thing. It's fucking statewide. It's federally backed. It's 3 murders and arson. Like, we need to get this motherfucker. If you see him, you fucking taser his ass. Bring this motherfucker in. Subsequently, Fisher was declared a fugitive, and a federal arrest warrant was also issued by the United States District Court for the District of Arizona, charging him with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. On June 29th, 2002, he was named by the FBI as the 475th fugitive to be placed on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list. He is also on the America's Most Wanted Dirty Dozen list of the show's most notorious fugitives ever. Which, be real, actually, right now, the Dirty Dozen is like almost as official as the FBI top 10 most wanted list. John Walsh has brought in a lot of fucking fugitives with that show. America's Most Wanted is a pretty...
He's the
John
best.
Walsh
Yeah.
You see they're bringing that show back?
Yeah.
Yes.
As
I'm
they
so
should.
pumped.
As they should. They're also bringing back Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh my God, that show used to terrify me as a little
Yeah.
kid.
I mean, I'll miss Robert Plant for sure, but...
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's not what I was
Yeah.
thinking of. Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh, really?
They're bringing that back, yeah. I'm pretty
Just the
excited.
tone of his voice, like I remember behind my grandma, like, God, I hope
It
that
sounded
guy
like
does
he was
not know
talking
doing-
from back here the whole
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
You're like, I think I love you, though,
I
my
think
old
I love
man.
you, but I'm terrified of you.
I'm homesick from school right now, though, so
Yeah.
keep showing me these sweet reenactments of Bigfoot. So, I mean, this has gone to huge. This isn't like local news.
Yeah.
Like, where is this guy? He exploded his house. He's on the
It's
fucking...
like a Scott Peterson.
National news.
Yes,
like,
he is
yeah.
on the top
yeah.
10 most wanted list. He's a real deal fugitive to this point. The FBI offers a reward of up to $100,000 for information leading to his capture. As of April 2003, the FBI has received hundreds and hundreds of leads. However, all sightings of Fisher have been inconclusive or false. In February 2004, an individual with a striking physical resemblance to Robert Fisher was arrested in Vancouver, British Columbia by the RCMP. Imagine being this fucker. Like, this guy killed his whole fucking family. He fucking burned down his house. Take him in. He's like, I'm not Robert Fisher.
Yeah.
What the hell? I swear I'm not Robert Fisher. Like, shut up, get in here. We don't, you know what we're talking about. And they take him in there, and they
Sure as God's got sandals, that's him.
so they get him in, and they do fingerprints and eventually confirm that the man was not Robert Fisher. He is held by the Canadian police for approximately 1 week until a family member correctly identified him as well as not Robert Fisher.
Oh my God, we so
I fucking told you
mad.
guys.
Yeah, I told you, hey, get me the fuck out of here. So Fisher is considered armed and extremely dangerous and has ties to Florida and New Mexico. He has been speculated to have committed suicide or started a new life under an assumed identity. This is also new for me because there is no end to the story. Fisher has been described as a loner, and if he has not killed himself, he is thought to live alone or in an isolated area. If you have
Wait, so he has never been found?
If you have any information concerning Robert Fisher, please contact your local FBI office or the nearest American embassy or consulate. Field office for the Phoenix area FBI office. Phone number is 623-466-1999.
What the fuck?
I wonder if he offed himself.
So there's different theories on it. It's like they've pretty extensively searched the areas that they know that he camped in. I mean, there are definitely places that they might have no fucking idea. There's a tiny hole in the ground that opens up to a huge cave. You never know about shit like that. But
How deep in the Navy was he?
I don't think he stayed. I think he did like a 4-year. He joined the Navy and he did his.
I mean, because he had to be to do.
Well, I just
be a
mean, like,
firefighter and
You
to
could
do all
have
that shit.
Could he have the training to know how to live off the grid?
Well, I think between his Navy and just like his camping, for sure. Like he was like the guy who like camped 3 weekends a month. Like he was up
Yeah.
in the mountains always camping and fishing, and so
You can buy fake identities on the dark web for a couple bucks too.
So
Dude, I know a guy in Tulare I could buy a fake ID from.
So
Not a fake ID, but like a full identity with a social security.
I could get
Oh,
like
dang.
we're gonna edit this out so we don't incriminate you. Okay,
Thank you.
for sure.
Yeah, some of that stuff passport sounds felonious.
I don't know. I know a guy that knows a guy.
Yeah. But Lindsay's not involved in that kind of shit,
Yeah.
y'all. She's straight laced.
She's fine. We're good here.
Move along, Mark.
I'm just a modest hairdresser.
So yeah, I mean, it's long shot because there are some people that listen to the show, but this guy's been on the lam for 18 years, or dead for 18 years, or on the lam for half that time. But like, if just call someone if you think you know who this dude might be, you know this random guy, and you know live
got a
in
picture
some
of this
small
guy?
fishing village. Yeah, we'll post all that shit. I'll show you guys too because we're about to take a break. But yeah, this is for me. It's a little weird because like there's not a whole lot of childhood background. That's kind of like where.
It's not tied up in a nice bow.
Yeah, there's no end to this story. Maybe we'll get to tie it up, and maybe they'll be like, "Thanks, serial killers, you helped us find Robert Fisher."
I hope
Unlikely,
so.
but like maybe, fucking maybe.
Could happen.
But yeah, this one is not tied up with a nice bow. Good way to put it. It's kind of still out there. If you think you know something about Robert Fisher, please call. So
Yeah.
let's take a break right here. I brought my own side story, and then I have another family annihilator for you guys.
Dope.
So. I mean, I hate to even say it, but come back or I'll kill you and your whole family.
I feel blessed right now in this moment at my best. Walking down the path of my success. Work for what you want in life, progress. So you know what you signed up for.
Welcome back, everybody. I've got a little side story for you guys, and what's fun is the side story starts with a question. Question number 7.
Yes.
What is the subject of my side story? Is it A wife killing a cheating husband? B, a man killing a coworker who was promoted over him. C, a man killing and dismembering his grandma. D, an older woman kills a home invader. Wife kills a cheating husband. Man kills a coworker who is promoted over him. Man kills and dismembers a grandma. Older woman kills home invader.
I know what I want it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wife kills.
Okay, Bree says wife kills a cheating husband. Lindsay said a man killed and dismembered his grandma. Right? Did I read that right?
Yeah.
Is that what you wanted it to be, Greg?
I wanted it to be the home invader one.
Well, this article was written by Kristen Bonvillian from Cox Media Group National Content Desk, WSB TV2 Atlanta. Nathan Aubane, who is 29 of Utica, was barefoot, shackled, and wearing a mesh spit guard over his head. We're going to get to the answer, I swear. And went before an Oneida County judge, according to the Utica Observer Dispatch. Aubane made spontaneous admissions during his arraignment about the slayings of his grandmother, Catherine Aubane, who is 90, and their 87-year-old landlord, Jane Winka. Quote, I did do it. I did chop her up. I didn't only chop her up, I chopped up my landlord too, end quote, Aubane said, according to the Observer Dispatch. Quote, I killed her, chopped her up in the name of the Lord. She wanted to do nasty things, and I had enough, end quote. New quote, I'll chop up anyone who disrespects Jesus Christ, end quote. He continued, according to reporters, to present recorders present for the proceeding. So he's just yelling the shit out. Like, he sees all the reporters like, yeah, I chopped her up. I fucking chopped her up in the name of Jesus. She's trying to do nasty shit, and I fucking chopped her up. Jesus. Like, this is real fucking shit happening. He's got, like, the spit guard over his face. They're fucking wheeling him in Hannibal Lecter style.
I like to think that Jesus appreciates anybody who's going to chop somebody up on his behalf. I mean,
He's
That's
like, yo,
like
Tim
going to
Tebow don't
Jesus.
have shit on this guy.
yeah,
Like,
when
go
I get my
gangster
cult
there,
rolling,
Jesus.
I expect people to do
should
that,
sell
but
that.
until I get my cult rolling, it's okay.
I'll chop up anyone who disrespects Jesus Christ. Like he's
Yeah, man.
he's the real deal Holyfield. So
Commitment.
he would remain uncooperative throughout the entire arraignment and be forced into a restraint chair.
What?
He's forced into a restraint chair. I'm telling you, it's Hannibal Lecter shit. He's muttering as he is led into the courthouse. Moments before, he responded to reporters who questioned why he allegedly committed the killings. In the name of Jesus Christ, Aubane told the reporters as he shuffled slowly toward the courthouse doors. She tried to touch me sexually, and I had enough of it. Aubane did not clarify which woman he was accusing of the molestation, but his comments to reporters were caught on video. Aubane's public defender, Adam Tisinski, told the Observer Dispatch he put little stock in what the client was saying. A mental evaluation has been ordered for Aubane, and the defendant was also in a medically induced coma for about 48 hours prior to the arraignment. Aubane crashed his car into a telephone pole Sunday night while fucking running from police. WSTM in Syracuse reported that firefighters who responded to the crash scene found an uncooperative Aubane accosting some woman in the area. Sergeant Michael Curley of the Utica Police Department told the news station that Aubane told the firefighters he had just killed someone. This guy is out of his fucking gourd for Jesus.
I mean, if his grandma was trying to touch him, I kind of agree with him, but I
don't
don't know how real that is.
Yeah,
I feel like
that's where
I don't know.
But
if
also,
he's being
like,
honest about that.
maybe like, so like if she is trying to touch you and you told her a million times and like you just like maybe like push her down and run away. Like, I
that's
mean, like, you know
kinda
what I'm
thinking.
saying?
Like,
Like,
you
he's
should fight
29.
her 90 years old.
I'm not condoning a pushing of a grandma, but if it's like something, you know.
She's trying to rape you. I feel like
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
appropriate.
you
I feel
know,
like she's pretty
break a
easy
hip.
to fight off.
Yeah. You didn't have to multiple times stab her and dismember her entire body. I don't think.
If they came in waves of like, I don't know, say 5 at a time,
5 grandmas at a time.
how many waves do you think you could stand up through?
I don't know, man. I just don't know. At what point, like, how
they
do
have
the waves come?
walkers?
Like, am I just
Like,
getting
do they have
5 at a
weapons?
time and like I
I
get
feel like
rid of
they're
those
probably
5 and
all pretty easy to shove over.
they're just single kicks
Or
each.
just like run.
No, they just
like
you just
run.
get
Just
5
run
at
away,
a time,
yeah.
like 2 minutes
Easy.
apart.
Note to Greg while editing, please take out the elder abuse.
Unless they have like the jazzy scooters, they could outrun you. They could outdrive you.
They don't
Easy.
go that fast though.
They
At
just
90, you have to
Dude,
think 90.
those things go fast as fuck.
And they've got a hell of a battery life. Did you hear about the lady at the Walmart in North Carolina drinking the wine out of the Pringles can?
Yeah.
Spirit animal.
I aspire to be her.
Well, make sure you write my points down for that one.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that.
Don't forget that.
Lindsay at 1,000. Bree at 250 points.
So
Plenty of time,
sad.
Bree. Plenty of time. Plenty of time. This is just the side story before the second killer. You know,
She could come back and like win it almost like last time.
absolutely. You nail one answer and you have the lead. You just got to nail one.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying. That's what happened to Joseph in the last episode. He got a 1,000 point question, and it was pretty much just over from there. So, hey, hang in there. Always. So, they found him crashed. He's uncooperative and slightly unresponsive. His car registration led investigators to 1147 Tidden Avenue in Utica, where Audane had lived for about a year with his grandmother in the second-floor apartment in the home. Wintka, the landlord, lived in the downstairs apartment, WSTM reported. Detectives found a horrific scene in Wintka's apartment. Quote, police found body parts of Wintka inside her apartment, and her torso and head were found along Albany Street, the Observer Dispatch quoted Oneida County District Attorney Scott McNamara as saying. So there were like body parts in the house and like some strewn down the side street that they lived on like a corner lot.
Yeah, this motherfucker
kind of
was
a
crazy.
busy road right
Yeah.
here and
Yeah.
a not as busy road, and there was like a head and part of torso.
I feel like if in any court case ever you're allowed to testify insane, like it's this fucking dude.
Yeah.
So
You know what? Hold on. Before you continue, you know what really bothers me about that?
what's that?
Part of a torso.
Yeah.
Like an arm comes off clean, a head comes off clean, legs come off clean. A torso is not a clean break.
Part of a torso.
Like that's fucking messy because then the insides are outside.
Yeah, I don't think he had an aversion to it.
I understand. I'm just saying, like, as far as like the people that have to find this stuff,
Yeah, that's very truth.
that's
Truth.
just that's
It's gotta
a
be
fucking,
infuriating.
Yeah.
that's a wreck.
Yeah. So, the home where the defendants and the victims lived sits on a corner lot at the intersection of Tilden Avenue and Albany Street. Catherine Aubane was reported missing Monday morning by the Utica Police Department. By that night, however, she had been found in pieces. The elderly grandmother's remains were found dismembered and buried in a shallow grave in Claysville, about 10 miles from the home. So the grandmother got buried in a different site. They found her very easily. Police officials told the Observer Dispatch that initial findings indicate the women were stabbed to death before the bodies were cut up. But the final determination will come when the medical examiner does the full investigation. Their exact time of death had not yet been established. Quote, at this point, it's hard to tell what we're dealing with, McNamara told the newspaper. Aubane has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of his grandmother and Wintka. He was booked into the Oneida County Jail on a Wednesday, according to records. New York Department of Corrections records also show that Aubane previously served 5 years in prison, beginning in 2008, for second-degree robbery. While serving his sentence at the Auburn Correctional Facility, he was convicted of possessing a homemade weapon, which a guard said that he found during a search. According to the National Registry of Exonerations, Aubane was pleaded guilty despite maintaining his innocence during that investigation. The guard, Matthew Cornell, later admitted to authorities that he had planted weapons on a different inmate in the prison. Because of Cornell's admission, Aubane's conviction on that charge had been taken away, so he was exonerated of that crime while he was in prison. It was completely vacated as of January of 2017. So this is pretty recent. This happened, I want to say, in October. So he's just getting to court for the first time and getting his words out there like, yeah, I chopped him up for Jesus, for Jesus. So like Lindsay said, I think,
Crazy.
I wish I could love anybody as much as that dude loves Jesus.
yeah, I will chop my grandma up for you. So, yeah, nice little change of pace, right, guys?
Really switched it up on us.
So let's jump into just another shithead, family annihilator, mass murderer, whatever you want to call him, John List. Question number 8. In what year is John List born? Okay, Bree says December 12th, 1972. Lindsay says January 29th, 1968. No one was really close. but Lindsey is going to get the points because he was born in Bay City, Michigan, September 17th, 1925.
Wow.
25. Oh.
Yeah. He old.
I like an old school story.
So $12.50 for Lindsey, $2.50 for Bree. Don't worry, Bree. Plenty of time. Yeah, so he's born in Bay City, Michigan. This is 1925. Yeah, it's old school-ish during one of the more violent decades in American history. He is the only child of German-American parents, apparently very strict German-American parents. In some of his later interviews, he's like, I didn't have siblings, so I didn't have anyone to play with or fight with. It was very fucking weird, and I hate him so much.
My heart goes out to him.
Yeah.
I'm sad. I got all the attention.
Greg, yeah. All right. I got all the attention. So he is going to serve. Oh, no. His parents, John Frederick List and Alma Maria Barbara Florence Hubinger. Those are all. I was like, yeah, that's a fucking name right there. Thanks.
She from Central America?
Thanks, Barb. Alma Maria Barbara Florence Hubinger. Hubinger. Yes, she lived until 1971. She was born in 1887.
Wow.
Damn.
Holding it down, girl. So, like his father, he was a devout Lutheran and would eventually become a Sunday school teacher. So, what's fucking happening here, you guys? Question number 9.
Let's start summoning demons,
Yeah,
dude. I'm
yeah.
on that train now.
John List is going to join the military. What branch? Same question, different. Family Annihilator.
He was born when?
1925. Okay. Air Force says Bree. Army says Lindsey. In 1943, John List is going to enlist in the U.S. Army and serve in the
Gosh.
infantry as a laboratory technician during
I just know
World
people,
War
man.
II.
I just don't. I'm not familiar with was the Air Force like a thing back then? Is this like a new thing, like the Space Force? Is this a stupid answer? So I just really doubted myself. I wanted to go to Army because I was like, oh, this is like, yeah,
Hey, Bree.
that time.
Plenty of time. 5 questions to go.
Very insecure.
What do we got here?
I'm a few vodka sodas in. too.
1,500
That's why I'm so
to
goddamn
250.
insecure.
Shout out to Paul Wolf. Thank you.
Still plenty of time.
It's just smart juice. That's what the fuck's in that. Then fill it up with fucking smart juice water or some shit.
I think Paul calls it winning juice.
Sadly, he's not wrong, son of a bitch. So, he's joining the U.S. Army during World War II. After his discharge in 1946, he enrolled in the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, where he earned a bachelor's degree in business administration and a master's degree in accounting. He was commissioned as a second lieutenant through ROTC, and in November of 1950, as the Korean War escalated, List was recalled to active military service. He would go to Fort Eustis in Virginia and met Helen Morris Taylor, the widow of an infantry officer who had been killed in action in Korea, who lived nearby with her daughter, Brenda. John and Helen would marry December 1st, 1951 in Baltimore, and the family moved to Northern California, where List served as an Army accountant. So he's got a nice little desk job now. After completion of his second tour in 1952, List worked for an accounting firm in Detroit and then as an audit supervisor at a paper company in Kalamazoo, where their 3 children were born. By 1959, List had risen to general supervisor of the company's accounting department, but Helen, who was an alcoholic, had become increasingly unstable in his life. In 1960, Brenda married and left the household, and List moved with the remainder of the family to Rochester, New York, to take a job with Xerox, where he eventually became the director of accounting services. So his stepdaughter that came with the marriage got married, moved out of the house, and now he's got his 3 birth children and his wife living at his home. And he got this fucking cushy job at Xerox, which is a company we all know the name of, so that must mean something, right? He's some fucking whatever, director of accounting services. In 1965, he accepted a position as vice president and comptroller at a bank in New Jersey City, and moved with his wife and children and mother to Bree's Knoll, a 19-room Victorian mansion at 431 Hillside Avenue in Westfield. On November 9th, 1971, List would methodically murder his entire immediate family using his own 9mm Steyr 1912 semi-automatic handgun and his father's handed-down Colt .22 caliber revolver. After his children were at school, he would shoot his wife Helen, who was 46, in the back of the head, and then went up to his mother's third-story apartment. So they have this 19-room mansion. So she has this little mother-in-law apartment that was within the house on the in the attic. So he goes up there, and his mom was like, "What the hell is that noise?" And he's like, "Oh, I was coming up to see if you heard the noise, And then once his mom turned around, he shot her in the back of the head as well. Yeah, I know. This one we just kind of jumped right into it because So while his children were at school, he committed both of these atrocities. Later, he's going to wait for his daughter Patricia, who is 16, and his younger son Frederick, who is 13, to arrive home from school. As they came in about a half an hour apart, he waited for them to just get distracted, snuck up behind him, and shot him in the back of the head.
Put your backpacks away, get a snack. It's been a long day at school.
As he killed, he wasn't supposed to be home, I think was the thing. They got home normally by themselves. So they came in well, it's my house. And they went into just like you said, I think both were killed in the kitchen, went into the kitchen for a snack, and he came into the kitchen behind him and killed him dead. So as he killed each person besides his mother, he would take them into this ballroom. They said it was a very seldom used ballroom in their 19-room mansion. And he set them on sleeping bags. So he was just setting them beside one another on these sleeping bags. And I remember him describing it well, I put them on sleeping bags because I didn't want their blood to just get on the white floor. I didn't know what that would do to that. And,
the resale value.
See, and I was thinking more he was being compassionate, he was trying to be delicate with them, and then that motherfucker tricked me.
He
went the other way.
Yeah, that's exactly what he did. But remember, he's got one other kid at this point too. So he would kill both of his kids as they come home, and then make himself lunch, sit there and eat and read the newspaper.
What a psychopath!
He
again, just get the divorce.
Yes, yep, yeah. So he would at that time write letters to his kids' school saying that they were going on an extended vacation, they're not going to be home for 4 or 5 weeks, or going to care for his wife's mother.
They're not gonna. It's not like it is now.
Yeah. You're not going to hear from us. We're going to be out of town for 5 weeks. Don't trip. Sign John List, and he goes, and after he eats lunch, after killing his 2 of his children, his wife and his mother, he drives to the post office to mail the letters, goes to the bank and closes out an account that he and his mother both have together, and withdraws all the money from it. So
that's a weird thing too, to have an account with your mother.
With your mom. Yeah.
I mean that says kind of a lot.
I think it was that she was 84, I believe, at the time, and she's kind of
so he was maybe
slipping.
just
So he was
power of
helping her out.
attorney.
Yeah, kind of deal. But he went then to Westfield High School and watched his elder son John Jr. play in a soccer game. And in the interviews later, he's like, "Yeah, he had a really good game. I was very proud of him." So he takes John Jr. home. They go through this side door where he wouldn't be able to see any of the mess that had happened. And he then shot John Jr., but I think John Jr. flinched or something at the time, and he didn't immediately die. So he shot John Jr., it says, 10 or 11 times in the chest and head.
Because
one time in the head
extra time
is good.
wouldn't have done it.
Right.
I mean, I could see if you miss, try again. 11 times. It's a little.
At
it's a little
range,
excessive.
Well, he was saying all of them just dropped when they died, and he was flailing and moving around and shit. And then right after that, he's like, "But I really just made sure that none of them suffered." So
by repeatedly
The guy
shooting him
that
over and
killed
over.
John Lennon said the same thing. He said when he shot him, he expected him to just drop and fall over, but instead Lennon turned around and took off running and started losing steam as he was running, and eventually just hit the glass doors and dropped. And he said it was way more intense than he ever expected.
yeah, shit, man. Crazy.
Yeah.
Mark David Chapman, I
I'm
believe is his
sad.
name. Yeah. Well, it's not going to get any better. So yeah, he went and watched his son's soccer game. Proud of him. Brought him home. Killed him in cold blood. Shot him 10 to 11 times in the chest and head. List claims again that he did not let any member of his family suffer. He placed all the bodies on sleeping bags in the ballroom. He left his mother in the attic apartment because he said it was too much to move her down from the third floor. So he just left her up there. In a 5-page letter that he left in the home to his pastor, found on his desk in the study, he wrote that he saw too much evil in the world and had killed his family to save their souls. He then cleaned the various crime scenes, carefully cut his own picture out of every family photograph in the house, tuned a radio to a religious station and left it on very loud, and departed the home for what was likely the last time after setting the thermostat down to 55 degrees.
Dad move.
So he turned it down super low to like help preserve the bodies for as long as he could.
I don't know why the fuck you think it needs to be 72 degrees in here.
You know what preserves bodies longer than the thermostat?
What's that?
Being alive.
Yeah.
I was say not killing
Truth.
people.
Okay, question number 10. You could earn 1,000 on this one, you guys. Closest to the answer will get 250. If you nail it, it's 1,000. How many days did it take for the bodies to be discovered? How many days? Could have been 200 days.
Do we know
Could
if
have
the
been
wife's
7 days.
parents were alive?
I don't. I honestly specifically do not. Okay, Bree says 13 days. Lindsay says 7 days. Bree's going to get 250 points on this one. The bodies were not discovered for 28 days.
What?
The murders were not discovered until December 7th, 28 days later, due in part to the family's reclusiveness and refusal to normally socialize when not in church, and in part to the notes sent by List to the children's schools and part-time jobs, stating that the family would be caring for Helen's mother-in-law in North Carolina. Oh, yeah, that's where they're supposed to be, taking care of sick mother. He also stopped milk, mail, and newspaper deliveries to the home. So he was like making sure nobody was even going up to the house. Neighbors also noticed that all of the mansion's lights were illuminated day and night and with no apparent activity within other than the very loud radio. Like when people went close, they heard the radio. And that was like another thing in his documentary was he was like, I figured if the music was playing, like someone's home, you know, like that was my idea. Apparently over 28 days and these lights being on, they just started like going out one by one, you know, every few days a new light was out and then the neighbors were like, dude, fuck this. So finally somebody called the police and the police went to the house and discovered the body. So
I feel like this dude really just like Home Aloned it.
yeah. That's rocking around. So the case became the most notorious crime in New Jersey history since the kidnapping of the Lindbergh baby. A nationwide manhunt was then launched, and List was the only member of the family, obviously, not to be found in the home. Even though it had been nearly a month since the murders, as the officer cleared each of the 19 rooms in the home, they said they felt like a super heavy unease, like someone was going to jump out at them anytime.
It's a ghost.
Yeah, maybe so. Police investigated hundreds of leads without success on the whereabouts of John List. All reliable photographs of List had been destroyed by List himself in the home. So he went around and he found all the photos and he cut himself out of them. And again, this is 1970s.
Very calculated.
Yeah, like there is no social media. Yeah. There's no file. You can't Google his name and be like, oh, here's this fucking asshole.
Yeah.
He's like got some boxes of photos and the ones on his wall, and he had gone through and cut himself out of all of them. Pretty wild.
Calculated.
Yep. Police investigated all of the leads and pretty much unsuccessful in all of them. The family car was found parked at John F. Kennedy Airport in New York City, but there was no evidence that John List had ever boarded a flight. Alma was flown to Frankenmuth, Michigan, and interred in the St. Lorenz Lutheran Cemetery. Helen and the 3 children were buried at Fairview Cemetery there in Westfield, where they died. Investigators revealed that they had been suffering from extreme financial problems due to John losing his job as an accountant. heavy expenses related to his fancy house and family problems caused by his wife's mental illness from her advancing syphilis. So she was like,
That's a pretty big problem back in the day.
yeah, she had crazy, gnarly, untreated syphilis, and she was an extreme alcoholic. I think she was self-medicating, and that's
Just get you some antibiotics.
It's not the way. That's not the way. Well, the whole thing is like that. Like John didn't even realize what was happening, and she was just kind of like living with it, I guess. And I'm
Yeah.
sure John was living with it too at some point.
I mean,
right?
how do you not know that?
I'm trying not to ask too many questions about
Or
that.
like smell that?
Yeah.
Like,
So,
Dive into that.
so it's the same thing. It's like there was money issues. He wanted to be the perfect family from the outside in, and the Lord wouldn't allow him to just walk away from this. Like that's the biggest sin of all. Like I couldn't. So it's almost the same story. Just
Killing them
different characters.
is much better. than-
murder is a
yeah.
pretty big sin. I think it's up there.
So
It depends on who you do it to. I mean, if you in the Bible, really,
yeah,
it really, if you think
because
about
if God just asks you to do it, you do that shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
So after killing his family, List wrote the letter to his pastor, Eugene Renwinkle of Redeemer Lutheran Church, explaining his motives. He felt that the 1970s were a sinful time and that his family was beginning to succumb to temptation, especially his oldest daughter, who expressed interest in an acting career, an occupation that List viewed as being particularly corrupt and linked to Satan. You just like imagine, like it's one thing to like be like, listen, I don't want to crush your dreams, but like you can't put all your eggs in the acting basket. You like, let's get you in school, theater. Like, fine, let's do it. But like,
Yeah.
that's one thing to kind of be a shithead and tell like it's not realistic. We need to do something else. It's another thing to be like, you are succumbing to Satan's grasp, and now I have to kill you. Congratulations, an actress.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So that was tough. That's tough for me. This is fucking ridiculous.
That's what happened to Marilyn Monroe, right?
Who knows what happened to Marilyn?
I know. I was like,
No, that's not what happened to Marilyn Monroe.
I was gonna say
JFK might have said,
differ.
bitch, my family's here.
Let's cut this bitch.
4 people bugged her house at the same time, and 2 of those people were the same guy. Like she paid this guy to bug her own house, and he had already been paid by somebody else to bug her house, and he was like, "Okay,
Done.
Don't
So-
let down.
want to see how fast I can do it? Want to see me do it again?"
In his letter to the pastor, he said that by killing his family before they had an opportunity to renounce their religion, he was saving their souls and sending them directly to heaven. Most criminal profilers asked to analyze List have concluded that List came up with this motive in order to put at ease his own mind and rationalize murdering his own family to lessen his own stress. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah, right. Isn't that exactly? It's a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
That's what it all is. After looking for John for 18 years and finding out a lot about him over this time, the authorities approached the producers of the show, America's Most Wanted.
Wait, so they never caught his ass?
We're 18 years later and not so far. So
John Walsh coming in clutch again.
they reach out to America's Most Wanted because most fugitives had been captured due to the viewers' telephone calls. It was the oldest case that they had ever featured. It was an 18-year-old case at the time it made it onto the show. Question number 11. What was the next big deciding factor in catching John List? Was it A, an age-progressed photograph? B, a story about his possible current locations? C, descriptions of him and his demeanor? Or D, an age-progressed clay bust? Was it an age-progressed photograph, story about his possible current locations, descriptions of him and his demeanor, or an age-progressed clay bust?
God damn it.
Bree says demeanor. Lindsay says an age-progressed photograph. The television program included an age-rendered clay bust, which was
The fuck is that?
very similar to List, even though he had been missing for 18 years. Like from here, like the neck, no arm, shoulder, and head. That's a bust.
They did like a whole like
clay?
Yeah,
God
yeah.
damn.
So this is like before computer rendering.
statue
So,
of David of this dude.
yeah, kind of. Yeah, they like, here's what, like, it's 18 years later. Here's what we believe he may look like. So they took like pictures they did eventually get of him and pictures of his parents, and they age progressed him 18 years, and even like,
And they made a
Please
fucking
tell
statue.
me, like, he got to keep
Yeah.
that.
we
or,
can,
I
I'll
feel
show
like
you
it's
guys
only
before you
right
leave.
that
We'll
he-
pull it up and I'll
I
show
feel
you
like
guys.
just like a sketch would have been a lot easier.
This is 3D, baby. 3D. This
I
is
want to know
technology.
who gets to keep that.
Well,
I would want that.
I'm gonna guess. Here, watch. I got a little.
They
rundown
probably
for
crumbled
you.
it and like tossed it in the trash afterwards.
See, I'd want it.
They give it to the victim's family to abuse how they keep it.
The man who created the bust of the aging fugitive was forensic artist Frank Bender. Bender had previously had great success in helping to capture aging fugitives and identify decomposed bodies by recreating these sculptures. Bender's work was part art, part forensic science. To imagine what an aging List would look like, he consulted a forensic psychologist and created a psychological profile of the man. He looked at photographs of List's parents and predicted that what he would look like as he aged. He even gave him a receding hairline and sagging jaws, which are totally accurate. Bender was particularly lauded for one final touch when he added to his completed artwork. It was a pair of different glasses, and John List wore glasses. Everybody's like, he would wear contacts, like he wouldn't keep wearing glasses. Bender professed that List would not be vain enough to wear contact lenses. However, he said List would have worn a pair of glasses different from those that he wore before the murders. He said they would be a pair of dark, thick frames. Bender and the psychologist theorized that List would do this to, quote, hide, in a sense. So they just thought like big, thick frames, like it helps him, he's hiding,
Yeah.
he's protecting his face with these glasses.
Nobody can see him.
Right. When List was
He's
arrested,
invisible.
when List was arrested, he was wearing the exact type of glasses they had on the clay bust during the episode of America's Most Wanted.
Wow.
In 1971, as the FBI later discovered, List had traveled by train from New Jersey to Michigan and then to Colorado. He settled in Denver in early of 1972 and took an accounting job with a fake identity as Robert Peter or Bob Clark, the name of one of his college classmates, although the real Bob Clark later asserted that he never knew John List. From 1979 to 1986, he was the comptroller at a paper box manufacturer outside Denver, and he joined a Lutheran congregation and ran the carpool for shut-in church members. Question number 12. In 1985, he's going to have a major life event. What is it? He is A, able to buy his own home. B, he gets married again. C, he's finally arrested. Or D, he kills himself.
What are they again?
Able to buy his own home, married again, arrested finally, or kills himself.
When did his family die?
71.
And this is 85.
85. Okay, Lindsay says he's arrested finally. Bree says that he gets married once more. At a religious gathering at his new church, he met an Army PX clerk named Dolores Miller and married her in 1985. So 250 points to Bree. Yes, guys, he got fucking married again.
And she was an undercover agent and she arrested him.
Oh, shit.
Twist.
Fake news.
On February of 1988, the couple moved to Midlothian, Virginia, where List, still using the name Bob Clark, resumed work as an accountant. On June 1st, 1989, he was arrested at a Richmond accounting firm after a Denver neighbor viewed the America's Most Wanted broadcast, recognized the profile, and alerted authorities. The best part about all of it is that the neighbor, wasn't a fan of America's Most Wanted, but when John List lived next door, he's like, no, dude, you gotta watch. Come over and just watch it with us. It's a fucking great show. You're gonna love this show. So when John, or Bob Clark, moved, this guy was like, I can't quit it. I gotta watch the show now. And he recognized his old neighbor, who had just moved to Virginia only a few weeks before. So he had turned a bunch of people onto the show, and he, in his later interviews, talked about too, I watched the show and I loved the show, and I figured that one day my face would be on the show. And he said, and then there it was, and they show the clay bust, and he's like, it was actually pretty good. So
Wow.
yeah. he turned people onto the show, and that's how he got caught.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
What a douchebag.
Yep, exactly.
What a cocky motherfucker, too.
That night when the neighbor saw the
A
picture,
Probst.
what's that?
I said a Probst. He deserved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That night when the neighbor saw the picture on John List, they were able to identify him because List or Bob Clark had got them into the show. After the capture, he continued to stand by his alias for several months, even after extradition to Union County, New Jersey in late 1980. It's me, Bob Clark, guys. Who is this John List fella? It's a Bobby Clark.
It's
you know
me,
me.
Bob.
Come on. I watched
you know me,
game-winning
Bob.
touchdown in 64. Like, come on. It's me. So, yeah, he's... they're not buying it, you guys. Believe it or not. They're just not buying it. Finally, faced with irrefutable evidence, including a fingerprint match with List's military records, and then with evidence found at the crime scene, he confessed his true identity on February 16th, 1990, 4 years later.
Wow.
At trial,
That recent.
List testified he was faced with grave financial difficulties in 1971. He had lost his job at the Jersey City Bank, and to avoid sharing this humiliating development with his family, he spent each workday at the Westfield train station reading newspapers until it was time to come home. He skimmed money from his mother's bank accounts to avoid defaulting on his mortgage, and he was also dealing with his wife's alcoholism and her untreated tertiary syphilis, contracted from her first husband and concealed for 18 years. So that's that syphilis we talked about earlier.
Imagine having syphilis for 18 fucking years.
No, I'm not going to do it.
I was just going to say, no, that doesn't sound like fun at all.
That's something I don't want to imagine, actually.
Yeah. To John, his killings are like almost justified. Like that's how he feels about it. Like I did the right thing. According to the trial testimony, Helen had pressured List into marriage by falsely claiming that she was pregnant, then insisted that they marry in Maryland, which does not require blood testing to obtain a marriage license. Though her health progressively worsened, she said nothing to List or her physicians until 1969 when a checkup revealed the condition. So also, what's up with these doctors who have missed her syphilis that's been raging for 18 years?
She's been riddled with syphilis.
So
this
by
whole
then
time.
the disease by then the disease and her excessive
Riddled
alcohol
inside.
consumption had, according to testimony, transformed her from attractive young woman to an unkempt and paranoid recluse. She frequently and often publicly disparaged List, comparing his sexual prowess unfavorably to that of her first husband, the syphilis giver. So, can you imagine being so
This
shitty
guy
in bed
fucks
that
worse
she's
than
like,
the guy that gave me syphilis.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's exactly what I was saying. It's like the ultimate fucking insult and injury.
I would take the guy who gave me syphilis over you.
Well, that guy probably knew what he was doing.
He had practice. He had syphilis.
Yeah.
Clearly.
He'd done it at least once before.
Court-appointed psychiatrist testified that List suffered from obsessive compulsive disorder, or personality disorder, and that he saw only two solutions to his situation: accept welfare or kill his family and send their souls to heaven.
Take the welfare.
Welfare was an unacceptable option, he
Take it.
reasoned, because it would expose him and his family to ridicule and violate the authoritarian father's teachings regarding the care and protection of family members. So he couldn't be a failure
you're right.
to
Kill them.
protect them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, it makes more sense that way.
Essentially put, he's a fuckface at the highest order. On April 12th, 1990, List was convicted of 5 counts of first-degree murder. At his sentencing hearing, he denied direct responsibility for his actions. Quote, "I feel that because of my mental state at the time, I was unaccountable for what happened. I ask all affected by this for their forgiveness, understanding, and prayer." The judge was unpersuaded, saying, "John Emil List is without remorse and without honor," he said. "After 18 years, 5 months, and 22 days, it is now time for the voices of Helen, Alma, Patricia, Frederick, and John F. List to rise from their graves." So this guy's like, this is a
Yeah.
fucking hardcore
Yeah.
Fuck
judge. Yeah. He imposed a sentence of 5 terms of life imprisonment to be served consecutively, the maximum permissible penalty at the time. List filed an appeal for his convictions on grounds that his judgment had been impaired by post-traumatic stress disorder due to his military service. He also argued that the letter left behind at the crime scene, essentially his confession, was a confidential communication to his pastor and therefore inadmissible as evidence.
Fuck yourself,
A
dude.
federal appeals court rejected both arguments.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like, no.
Yeah, we're gonna go with no.
Yeah, exactly. List later expressed a degree of remorse for his crimes. Quote, I wish I had never done what I did. I've regretted my action and prayed for forgiveness ever since. When asked by Connie Chung in 2002 why he had not taken his own life, he said he believed that suicide would have barred him from heaven, where he hoped to be reunited with his family. In the same documentary, he was talking about how when he gets to heaven, he just hopes that everyone doesn't remember what he did.
It's like a special kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I
Very
hope that when he gets
specific.
to heaven, they're all standing there like at the gates, and like St. Peter's all, oh, you're here to get into heaven. What's your name? And like the family steps out, and one of them has like a lead pipe, and one of them has like a chain, and like they just look like some street toughs.
See, I'd want
And-
people picketing saying, "We remember what you did."
Yeah.
I would
Just
just love
picket
to see like
signs.
he shows up at the pearly gates and then someone just like chest stomps him down.
Well,
into
I'll tell you
hell.
this.
300 style.
You guys
Yeah.
are going to love this because you guys love
Yes.
John Walsh. So at the end, that's like his whole huge thing. He's like, I think that, I'm here. I can seek forgiveness while I'm alive. I couldn't have done that if I just committed suicide. And like, I can still make it into heaven. That's when he's like, I just hope they forget. And so they go to like, the lead prosecutor or whatever. And he's like, I'm not a very religious man, but I believe that's how it works. If you can be forgiven, yeah, I think John List could go to heaven. And John Walsh was like, no fucking way. Like literally, like he swears twice. He's like, there's no way this son of a bitch is going to heaven. He's going
Yeah.
right where he deserves, and
Yes.
that's hell. And that's like how the doc
Nice.
ends. And I was like, yeah, Joe Walsh. Like, yeah.
I'm gonna get my eyes on this
Yeah.
documentary.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
So, question number 13. We're 2 questions to go. What did I miss some? I just didn't write them down, huh? Okay. I got them all down now. So we got a 750 to 1500. It's not over yet. Question number
It's not even
13, you
close.
guys. In what year did John List die? There are no options on this one. Closest is going to get 250 points. If you nail it, you can get 1,000 points. In what year did John List die?
He was
What
born
year was
when?
he arrested?
He was arrested in like 86. He was convicted in 1990.
And he was born in 30s?
25.
25.
Could he be almost 100 and still alive? Which, of course, is always an option. '96 and 97, you guys say. Bree's going to score 250 more points on this one. It's 1,000 to 1,500 because John List would die of complications from pneumonia at age 82 on March 21st, 2008.
I feel like you just $1'd me right now.
$1, Bob. While in prison custody at St. Francis Medical Center in Trenton, New Jersey. And reporting his death, the Network Star Ledger referred to him as the Boogeyman of Westfield. Question number 14. The Lists actually had something in their possession that could have completely gotten them out of the debt that List created while unemployed. What was it? So, Bree, you can't win. I'm sorry. There's no more stabbing questions. So, Lindsay, you've officially won before we even finish the last question.
I know what it is. This is exactly what I was talking about with my client today. I swear to God.
Really?
Yes, I know what it is.
Okay. Can
Can I just say it?
Yeah.
Was it a Tiffany skylight?
So, Breeze Knoll was destroyed by arson on August 20th, 1972, approximately 10 months after the murders. The crime remains officially unsolved, although there is speculation that John himself returned and burned it in an attempt to hide as much evidence as possible. Destroyed, along with the home, was the ballroom's stained glass skylight, rumored to be a signed Tiffany original, worth at least $100,000 at the time, equivalent to approximately $600,000 in 2018.
What are the fucking
Yes.
odds
How the
that my
fuck did you
client
know
and I
that?
were talking about this today?
Yeah.
Sarah, loving, love ya. Shout out. Thank you.
How?
I have no
were you
idea.
talking
No,
How
we
did
were-
that subject get
Because
brought up?
she likes murder too, and we were talking about it at her appointment today, and she was telling me this story, Exactly. And she was like, oh my gosh. And then like he didn't even have to murder his family because he could have been out of debt. I'm like, he just didn't have to murder his family, period. But
I see what you're saying.
holy
But if
shit,
you're gonna,
dude.
that's a good reason.
No, literally just talked about the story today. I had no idea what the dude's name was though.
Yep.
The Hail Mary was like mine last time. Like you
Yep.
counteracted mine.
Had
last time.
John known about the skylight, he may not have had to kill his family, make something happen with selling that skylight to ensure the financial stability of his family instead of murdering them. A new house was built without a Tiffany skylight on the property in 1974.
Dude, what are the fucking
What?
odds?
You were meant to win today. That's all I have to
Yeah.
Yeah, so congratulations,
Woo!
Lindsay, on your victory.
Eat.
Thank you, of course, for being here. Bree, anything you guys want to throw out here at the end? Any last thoughts, social medias, anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, follow me on Instagram at Callaway Hair Co.
Yeah, do it.
Mine's, I think, Bree.babes
_.
Yep.
There you go. Follows.
On Instagram. Yeah.
Hello, Greg.
Yes.
Anything you want to?
No.
Perfect. So, you guys follow us on everything. Rate us on everything if you can. It'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks for listening to this episode. Fuck John List. Fuck Robert Fisher. Fuck that guy who chopped up his grandma.
Let's just say fuck most like men in general. Like not you
Well,
guys,
hey,
obviously.
God,
of course.
come on,
Not
come
you guys, of
on,
course.
come
I
on.
just say it's pretty ironic that all the past.
Next time you
stories
guys
have
are on,
been
I'm bringing all women killers.
Please do.
I feel
because they are
personally
super
attacked.
That would be amazing.
Interesting. Bring Jodi Arias. That's a crazy bitch. I like to learn about.
Have you done an Eileen Wuornos episode yet?
Oh,
Man.
I mean, I don't love her.
She's one of the ones that I feel the most bad for.
Why?
She did not deserve. I don't think
What?
she deserved what. No,
Her upbringing was
her upbringing was
real.
awful.
I'm not saying that like I legitimately in the end
She
I
did-
feel bad for her
No.
or justified. I'm just saying of the serial killers that we have covered and I have seen the whole story of, I feel the most
She
bad.
needs to
for
be
You know what,
the
though?
women.
I would love to do, like,
not thrown in prison. I think she should have been gotten to a mental institution. I think she needed that kind of
I
help.
think you two need to be in a mental institution for saying that. But no, I would love to do like an all chick episode. That would be cool.
We have done some, but I'll think about that for the next time you guys come back. So, well, thank you guys for being here again. Thank you, Hella Greg, as always. Thank you everybody for listening. Remember, don't talk to strangers.
This has been another presentation from Super Network.